At this stage, I want to focus in on two areas of the photograph. One area is the edge of the subject here, and also I want to focus in on the desert. I want to darken that up a little bit over here. Well, first, let's work on the edge of the subject. If we zoom in a little bit, one of the things that we'll notice is that our black and white adjustment layers create this kind of glow or this edge here where we have this effect. One of the things I'm thinking is it might be nice to have some of my background effect spill over into the subject, just bringing out this highlight even more, adding to the overall connection between these two adjustments. Well, to do that, simply click in the mask for the main background adjustment layer. It's this one, the black and white adjustment, soft light on 100%. Then we're going to go to our mask panel, and here we're going to go to mask edge. Now what the intent here is to kind of mess up the mask. We're going to try to make a mask that isn't as good, in other words, so that it spills over into the image. In this case, I'm going to shift the edge by increasing this and also my feather. Now as I bring the feather amount up, what we're going to start to see is that highlight really coming into that area. I'll increase these other sliders as well to add to the effect. Now this is going to be subtle, but if you look at the before there, and then the after, what you'll see is that the highlights around the edges are really brought out. Focus on some of those highlights, like perhaps down here on the leg and the stomach. And if you look at that, here's that before and then after. Just bringing out some of that highlight there. I think that's kind of fun. Well, let's click OK. All right, well, now that we've modified this background mask so that we have a little bit of that highlight spillover, just bringing out some of these edges and those details, let's work on the background. In order to focus in on the background, we want to analyze things. And as I was mentioning, what I notice is that this is not too bad, but it's a bit darker than this side. So I want to bring this a little bit closer. I also want to perhaps create a bit more of a muted effect. So one way that we can take advantage of the mask we've created in order to modify this area is to go to one of our masks, say like these black and white masks here, and Command or Control click the mask. That will activate that mask as a selection. Next step, click in your topmost layer, and then choose an adjustment. Just for the sake of variety, here we're going to click on Hue Saturation, and then we'll go ahead and desaturate. This reveals to us that we have the opposite of what we want, so we need to invert that mask. You can do that by pressing Command or Control I, or by clicking on Invert. Okay, great. Now everything else is desaturated. Next step, we'll go to that blending mode of Soft Light. And here, all I want, though, is I want this to affect this area, not everything else. Well, if we look at our mask for a second, we can see that it's concealing this on the subject. It's revealing it everywhere else. Well, if we want to conceal it, grab a brush, paint with black, super high opacity there, big, huge brush. I'm just going to paint with black across the image, and you can see how that's filling it up with black, in this case limiting this adjustment to these areas of the photograph. The great thing about this now is I have an adjustment which is primarily focused in on the foreground. And I like how it bleached out the desert even a bit more. Well, the next thing I want to do is work on the brightness value of this side over here. So we're going to do the same thing that we did before to turn a mask into an active selection. Remember that? It's Command or Control, click on the mask. This is just showing us we have this area selected. Next step, we'll click on our adjustment layer icon and choose curves. Here all we're going to do is simply darken up this area. We want to bring our top point down perhaps a little bit. We can see that darkening effect. Here's that before and after. Well, I don't need as strong of a darkening effect over here. So we grab our brush tool. We'll paint with black, same thing. This time though we'll lower opacity, probably somewhere below 50%. And then we'll go ahead and just start to paint the effect away over on this side. Again, just trying to equalize the brightness there a little bit between these two sides. And you can see that as we paint this away, here's that before and after, this is now primarily darkening up this side over here. The great thing about this is we have control over how dark we want that side to be. What we want it to be is just pretty equal or even with the other side. If nothing else, maybe a little bit brighter, so that this is more background, this is foreground, so everything's kind of pushing forward. Let's take a look. Well, here we have the overall effect before and then after. A nice little subtle change to the desert background. All right, well, we just have a few more adjustments to do on this image, and we'll take a look at how we can finish this file off in the next movie.